The billionaire's scream at 2:47 a.m. would cost him everything he'd ever built. Marcus Chen bolted upright in his king-sized bed, heart hammering against his ribs. A soft glow pulsed from downstairs. Someone was in his penthouse. His fingers found the panic button by his nightstand, then froze. The intruder was humming. A woman's voice drifted up the marble staircase, soft and melodic, completely at odds with the terror clawing at his throat. Marcus grabbed the baseball bat from his closet and crept toward the sound, each footstep silent on Italian leather slippers. What he saw at the bottom of the stairs defied every instinct screaming in his head. A woman sat cross-legged on his pristine white floor, bathed in the blue glow of her phone's flashlight. Advanced physics textbooks surrounded her like prayer candles. Her finger traced quantum equations while she whispered formulas that could redesign reality itself. She wasn't stealing his art. She wasn't photographing his safe. She was studying calculus at 3 in the morning like his $50 million penthouse was her personal library. Maya Rodriguez looked up without surprise, as if she'd sensed him watching. Her dark eyes held no fear. Just the unsettling calm of someone who'd been expecting this moment for months. Mr. Chen. Her voice carried the weight of silk over steel. I finished cleaning hours ago. I was just reviewing some material before heading home. The baseball bat trembled in Marcus's grip. 6 months of employing this woman, and she'd been a ghost. Arriving after he slept, vanishing before dawn. Another faceless worker in his empire of invisible servants. But this shattered everything. What the hell are you doing in my home? The words exploded from his chest like shrapnel. Maya's notebook lay open beside her, pages covered in handwritten derivations that would have impressed his MIT professors. Her worn textbooks bore library stamps and margin notes in 3 languages. This isn't a classroom. Marcus stepped closer, using his height like a weapon. You're paid to scrub floors, not pretend you belong in my world. Maya closed her book with the same methodical precision she used to organize his office files. Every movement deliberate. Nothing wasted. Like someone who'd learned to make every second count. I understand your concern, sir, but her tone made his skin crawl. No deference, no stammered apology. Just the quiet confidence of someone holding cards they hadn't shown yet. People like you need to remember your place. He leaned forward until his shadow fell across her books. Stop reaching for things that will never be yours. It's pathetic. That's when Maya smiled. Not hurt. Not ashamed. But with the serene certainty of a demolition expert watching the timer tick towards 0. She gathered her textbooks like sacred relics, her fingers brushing a notebook filled with 6 months of careful observations. Late-night phone calls overheard while dusting. Classified documents glimpsed while emptying wastebaskets. Government contracts studied while invisible in plain sight. You're fired. The words fell like an executioner's axe. Pack your cleaning supplies and disappear. Don't expect any references. Maya stood with fluid grace, her books tucked against her chest like armor. At the door, she paused, turned, fixed him with a look that made his blood turn to ice water. Mr. Chen, she said, her voice floating through the silence like a funeral hymn. Do you know what separates a cleaning lady from a quantum physicist? Just the uniform. The door closed behind her with a whisper, leaving Marcus alone with a growing certainty that he'd just made the most catastrophic mistake of his life. Because Maya Rodriguez wasn't just a brilliant scientist forced into menial work. She was a former NSA cryptanalyst with doctoral-level security clearance who had spent half a year documenting treason that Marcus never imagined a simple janitor could recognize, understand, or systematically weaponize against him. The storm he couldn't see was already here, and it had been mopping his floors for 6 months. The next morning arrived like a slap of cold reality. Marcus Chen sat in his corner office on the 47th floor staring at the Wall Street Journal without reading a single word. The confrontation with Maya replayed in his mind like a broken record. Not her insubordination, but that smile, That damned knowing smile. His assistant Jennifer knocked twice before entering. "Mr. Chen, the cleaning service called. They're asking why Maya Rodriguez was terminated without notice. Apparently, she was their highest-rated employee in 5 years." Marcus slammed his coffee cup down, sending dark liquid across his mahogany desk. "Because she forgot her place. I found that woman studying physics in my living room like she owned it." Jennifer hesitated, her pen hovering over her notepad. "Sir, may I ask what level of physics—" "I don't care if it was elementary particle theory," Marcus snapped. "Domestic workers don't turn my home into their personal study hall, period." What Marcus couldn't know was that while he fumed in his climate-controlled tower, Maya sat in a cramped Brooklyn apartment that smelled of her mother's arroz con pollo, doing something infinitely more dangerous than studying. She was remembering everything. The apartment she shared with her mother and younger brother Carlos was a shrine to sacrifice. Her MIT diploma hung next to her mother's nursing certificate and Carlos's high school honor roll certificates. 3 generations fighting their way up 1 degree at a time. Maya opened her laptop, a second-hand machine she'd bought with her first cleaning paycheck, and accessed an encrypted folder she'd been building for 6 months. Each file was labeled with clinical precision. March 15, classified Dhaka call.wav. April 3 Shell Company, documents.pdf. May 22, foreign transfer, records JPG. During her months in Marcus's penthouse, Maya had developed a routine that went completely unnoticed. She always arrived 40 minutes early, not from dedication, but because Marcus had a pattern. He left sensitive documents scattered across his home office after late-night calls with government contacts and foreign intermediaries. Defense contracts sold to unauthorized buyers, encryption keys traded to hostile nations, backdoor access to critical infrastructure auctioned to the highest bidder. Maya hadn't just seen this information, she'd photographed it with a camera hidden in her cleaning supplies. Her PhD in quantum cryptography from MIT earned, while working 3 jobs to support her family, had given her not only the knowledge to understand complex national security breaches, but the discipline to execute long-term intelligence gathering. Her real resume was locked in a safe deposit box across town. 2 years with the NSA's Cryptologic Division, security clearance that could have opened doors to any tech company in America. But when budget cuts eliminated her position, Maya discovered that overqualified was just another word for doesn't fit our demographic. That's when she'd change tactics. If she couldn't infiltrate Marcus Chen's world through the front door, she'd go through the back. Literally. Getting hired by elite cleaning services wasn't coincidence, it was strategic planning. Maya had spent weeks researching which service handled the city's most sensitive locations. When she learned they cleaned Marcus's penthouse, she applied the same day. "Do you have experience with high-security environments?" the supervisor had asked. "More than you know," Maya had replied, with that same enigmatic smile that would haunt Marcus months later. For 6 months, she'd been invisible to him, arriving before dawn, cleaning perfectly, gathering intelligence and vanishing before he woke, until she decided she had enough evidence and needed an excuse to leave without raising suspicion. Studying quantum physics in his living room wasn't carelessness, it was bait. She knew Marcus would return early from his Thursday night poker games. She knew he'd react with exactly the arrogance and prejudice she needed to justify her firing. Now, in her apartment, Maya opened a secure communication channel she hadn't used since leaving the NSA. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she composed a message to someone she'd hoped never to contact again. "Director Sullivan," she typed. "This is former Agent Rodriguez. I have evidence of a Level 1 security breach. Request immediate extraction protocols." Her phone buzzed within minutes, a number she recognized but hadn't seen in 2 years. Maya. The voice was gravelly, worn down by decades of keeping America's secrets. "I thought you were done with this life." "I was," Maya said, watching her mother tend to Carlos's scraped knee in the kitchen. "But Marcus Chen just made it personal." She explained everything. The months of surveillance, the evidence of treason, the systematic theft of national secrets for profit. Director Sullivan's silence stretched like a held breath. Jesus Christ, Maya. If this is real, Chen isn't just stealing technology. He's selling our entire digital defense infrastructure to foreign governments. It's real, Maya said, her voice steady as granite. And I have the proof. Meanwhile, Marcus Chen was having the best day of his financial life. His latest defense contract had just been approved for $200 million. His stock options were soaring. His partners at the exclusive Harbor Club were toasting his success with champagne that cost more than most people's monthly salary. To Marcus, declared Senator Bradley Whitman, raising his crystal flute, the man who makes the impossible profitable. If only they knew how prophetic those words would prove to be. 3 weeks after firing, Marcus Chen stood in his penthouse surveying his empire. The city sprawled below him like a conquered territory. His latest government contract had been signed, sealed, and deposited into accounts that would make his great-grandchildren wealthy. He'd almost forgotten about the insubordinate cleaning woman. Almost, but every Thursday at 2:47 a.m., he found himself checking the living room, expecting to see her there with her books and that unsettling smile. The new cleaning service was efficient but anonymous, exactly how he preferred his help. Invisible, forgettable, in their proper place. His phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Meeting with Chinese delegation moved to 9 p.m. tonight. They're very interested in the quantum encryption protocols. Marcus smiled. The Chinese were paying triple market rate for technology they couldn't develop themselves. Of course, selling classified encryption algorithms to foreign governments was technically treason, but Marcus had learned long ago that laws were just suggestions for people with enough money and connections. He poured himself 3 fingers of Macallan 25 and stepped onto his balcony. The city lights twinkled below like scattered diamonds. Everything was perfect, under control, profitable. He had no idea that 47 floors below, in an unmarked government van, Maya Rodriguez was putting on a wire. "Audio check," said Agent Martinez, adjusting the nearly invisible transmitter clipped to Maya's collar. "Remember, we need him to explicitly discuss the technology transfers. Implications won't hold up in court." Maya nodded, her hands steady, as she checked the hidden camera in her cleaning supplies. He's arrogant enough to brag. Men like Marcus can't resist showing off their cleverness. Director Sullivan's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Maya, you sure about this? Once you go back in there, there's no turning back. Chen has killed people for less than what you're about to expose." Maya thought about her mother working double shifts at the hospital, about Carlos studying for his SATs at their kitchen table, about every brilliant mind she'd known who'd been overlooked, underestimated, discarded by men who measured worth by bank accounts instead of brain power. "I'm sure," she said. The elevator to the penthouse felt longer this time. Maya had called ahead, claiming she'd left something important during her last shift. Marcus had agreed to let her retrieve it, probably amused by the idea of the fired cleaning lady begging for scraps of dignity. When the doors opened, he was waiting with that same condescending smile. "Well, well, the aspiring physicist returns." Marcus gestured broadly at his pristine living room. "I trust you've found more appropriate employment since our last encounter." "Actually," Maya said, setting down her cleaning supplies with deliberate care, "I wanted to thank you." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Thank me for showing me exactly who you really are." Maya's voice carried a new edge, sharp enough to cut glass. "I've spent 6 months wondering if I was imagining things. The late-night calls, the classified documents, the foreign money transfers. But that night, when you looked at me and saw nothing but a stupid cleaning lady, I realized something important." Marcus's smile faltered slightly. "What's that? You're not as smart as you think you are." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus stepped closer, his jovial mask slipping to reveal something harder underneath. "Excuse me, Maya opened her supply kit and pulled out a thick manila folder. Did you know the NSA tracks all digital communications in and out of buildings like this? Every email, every phone call, every encrypted message you thought was secure. She spread photographs across his coffee table, like tarot cards revealing a dark future. Images of classified documents, screenshots of international money transfers, audio transcripts of conversations that could topple governments. Marcus's face went white as fresh snow. Where did you get these? The same place I got my PhD in quantum cryptography. Maya said, her voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel. The same place I learned to break encryption codes you didn't even know existed. The same place that taught me how to identify, document, and prosecute treason. She watched understanding dawn in his eyes like a terrible sunrise. You're not just a cleaning lady. Former NSA cryptanalyst. Security clearance level 7. 2 years tracking international cyber espionage before budget cuts eliminated my position. Maya's smile held all the warmth of a winter grave. Funny thing about being unemployed, it gives you time to pursue other interests, like studying the digital habits of tech billionaires who think they're above the law. Marcus lunged for his phone, but Maya was faster. She'd anticipated this moment for months. I wouldn't, she said calmly. Agent Martinez, he's reaching for his phone. Who the hell is Agent Martinez? Marcus spun around wildly, searching for hidden watchers. FBI Cybercrime Division. They're very interested in your business practices. Maya gathered the photographs with the same methodical precision she'd once used to organize his office, especially the part where you've been selling quantum encryption algorithms to Chinese military contractors. The penthouse door burst open. 12 federal agents flooded in with weapons drawn and arrest warrants ready. Marcus Chen, the man who'd built a $50 million empire by believing he was untouchable, found himself face down on his own marble floor with zip ties cutting into his wrists. Marcus Chen. Agent Martinez announced, "You're under arrest for treason conspiracy to commit espionage and violations of the International Arms Control Act." As they hauled him toward the elevator, Marcus caught sight of Maya watching from his balcony. She wasn't gloating, wasn't celebrating, just observing with the same clinical detachment she'd shown while documenting his crimes. "Why?" he shouted, struggling against the agent's grip. "Why did you do this to me?" Maya turned slowly, her eyes reflecting the city lights like dark mirrors. "Because you made the mistake of thinking invisible meant stupid, and stupid men always destroy themselves. They just need someone smart enough to help them along." The holding cell at the Federal Detention Center smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. Marcus Chen sat on the narrow bench, still wearing his silk pajamas from 3 hours earlier, staring at concrete walls that had replaced his panoramic city views. His lawyer, Thomas Morrison, the best criminal defense attorney money could buy, spread files across the metal table with the precision of a surgeon preparing for a hopeless operation. "It's bad, Marcus. Worse than bad. They have recordings, documents, financial records, digital forensics." Morrison's voice trailed off as he reviewed the evidence. "How did they get access to your personal communications?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "My cleaning lady." Except she wasn't really a cleaning lady. She was a former NSA cryptanalyst who spent 6 months turning my own home into a surveillance operation. Morrison stopped mid-page. "The woman you fired. The one you said was studying in your living room. Maya Rodriguez, PhD in quantum cryptography from MIT, former government agent, professional spy who made me look like an amateur." Marcus buried his face in his hands. "I called her stupid. I told her to know her place. She was 3 steps ahead of me the entire time." Morrison's face went pale as he continued reading the evidence brief. "Marcus, they're calling this the largest technology espionage case in U.S. history. The algorithms you sold to Chinese contractors, they're already being used to hack U.S. military communications." "How was I supposed to know?" Marcus exploded. "She looked like every other service worker I'd ever hired. Quiet, invisible, forgettable. Except she wasn't. Morrison closed the file with finality. She was documenting everything, every conversation, every transaction, every classified document you left lying around. She built an airtight case against you while scrubbing your toilets. Meanwhile, Maya sat in Director Sullivan's office at the FBI's New York field headquarters, answering questions for the official record, but her mind kept drifting to the phone call she'd made an hour earlier. Mama, she'd said in Spanish, her voice finally allowing a tremor of emotion. It's over. We're safe now. Her mother's sob of relief had echoed through the secure phone line. Mija, I was so scared. When you took that job, when you wouldn't tell me why. I couldn't risk telling you the truth. But Marcus Chen will never hurt another family like ours. The money they stole, it's going back to the victims. And there's going to be a whistleblower reward, enough to send Carlos to any college he wants. Now facing Director Sullivan across his desk, Maya felt the weight of 6 months finally lifting from her shoulders. You did good work, Agent Rodriguez, Sullivan said, using her old title with deliberate respect. Chen's network was bigger than we imagined. 17 other tech executives involved. Over $2 billion in stolen technology. You've potentially saved thousands of American lives. Maya nodded, but her expression remained troubled. There's something else. Something I haven't reported yet. Sullivan leaned forward. What? Chen wasn't the mastermind. He was too arrogant, too sloppy. Someone else was coordinating the technology transfers. Someone smart enough to use him as a front man while staying completely invisible. She pulled out a notebook. The same one Marcus had seen her writing in that night in his penthouse. But this wasn't filled with physics equations. It was a behavioral analysis of every person who'd visited Marcus's home during her 6 months there. Senator Bradley Whitman, Maya said, pointing to a detailed profile. He was there for every major deal. Always arrived after the Chinese contacts left. Never stayed long enough for photos, but long enough to collect his cut. Sullivan's face went granite hard. A sitting U.S. senator. The technology Chen sold required congressional authorization to export. Whitman sits on the Senate Intelligence Committee. He's the only person who could have provided the legal framework for what Marcus was doing. Maya spread out photographs taken with her hidden camera. Images of Whitman examining classified documents. Audio transcripts of him discussing overseas accounts. Digital evidence of encrypted communications coordinating foreign technology transfers. My God, Sullivan whispered. This goes all the way to the top. It gets worse, Maya continued. Whitman isn't just enabling the espionage. He's planning something bigger. A cyber attack on U.S. infrastructure timed to coincide with the midterm elections. Marcus was just building the tools. Whitman is planning to use them. Sullivan grabbed his secure phone. I need an emergency meeting with the Attorney General and Maya. You're not done being a government agent. Not yet. That night, as federal agents quietly surrounded Senator Whitman's Georgetown mansion, Maya stood on her apartment building's fire escape, watching the lights of Brooklyn spread out below her. Carlos was inside studying calculus, the same subject that had triggered Marcus's downfall. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I underestimated you once. I won't make that mistake again. MC. Maya deleted the message without responding. Marcus Chen was finished. But Bradley Whitman, the real architect of the espionage network, still had no idea that the cleaning lady he'd never bothered to notice had been documenting his crimes for months. The storm Maya had been building was about to claim its second victim, and this time she wouldn't need to wait for him to fire her. 2 years later, Maya Rodriguez stood at the podium of MIT's graduation ceremony, looking out at 3,000 bright faces eager to change the world. As the university's youngest ever professor of applied cryptography, she'd seen firsthand how intelligence could triumph over arrogance when given the right opportunity. The person sitting next to you, she told the graduating class, might be the janitor who saves your company from bankruptcy, the server who prevents your restaurant from failing, the security guard who stops a terrorist attack. Brilliance doesn't announce itself with expensive suits or prestigious titles. It usually arrives quietly, carrying a mop. The audience laughed, but Maya's expression remained serious. 2 years ago, I was that person. Invisible, underestimated, dismissed by people who confused poverty with stupidity. Today, I'm speaking to you from a podium at one of the world's greatest universities, not because someone finally noticed my potential, but because I refused to let other people's blindness define my worth. In the front row, her mother Barbara dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Beside her, Carlos, now a freshman at MIT on a full scholarship funded by Maya's whistleblower reward, grinned with the pride of a younger brother who'd watched his sister conquer the world. Maya's phone vibrated with a text from Director Sullivan. Chen got 25 years. Whitman got life without parole. The entire espionage network dismantled. You saved the country, Agent Rodriguez. She didn't respond immediately. Maya had learned that the most powerful victories were often the quietest ones. After the ceremony, Maya walked across campus to a small coffee shop where she'd arranged to meet someone she hadn't seen in 2 years. Jennifer Marcus's former assistant sat at a corner table looking nervous. Professor Rodriguez. Jennifer stood awkwardly. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Just Maya is fine, and you wanted to discuss something. Jennifer pulled out a folder thick with documents. I've been working as a paralegal since everything happened, but I keep finding cases like Marcus's. Tech executives selling classified information. Government officials taking bribes. It's everywhere, and nobody's stopping it. Maya sat down, intrigued. What are you proposing? I want to learn how to do what you did, how to gather evidence, how to build cases against people who think they're untouchable, how to fight back. Maya smiled, the same enigmatic expression that had haunted Marcus Chen in his final days of freedom. You want to become invisible. I want to become dangerous, Jennifer corrected. That evening, Maya returned to her childhood apartment in Brooklyn. The neighborhood hadn't changed much, but her perspective had transformed completely. The bodega owner greeted her in Spanish. The teenagers playing basketball paused to wave. The elderly woman who'd always sat on her stoop smiled and asked about her latest case. This was her real empire. Not penthouses or stock options, but a community that had watched her rise and still claimed her as their own. Her phone rang as she climbed the stairs to her old apartment. Maya, it's Agent Martinez. We have a situation. What kind of situation? A defense contractor in Silicon Valley, selling AI technology to foreign governments. We think there's a network of executives involved, but they're smart, cautious. We need someone who can get close without raising suspicion. Maya paused on the landing, looking at the door to the apartment where she'd planned her takedown of Marcus Chen. You need a cleaning lady. Actually, we were thinking more along the lines of a corporate consultant. You're too well known now to go undercover as domestic help. That's where you're wrong. Maya said, her voice carrying the same quiet confidence that had terrified billionaires and senators. The most dangerous spies aren't the ones in tuxedos at embassy parties. They're the ones holding vacuum cleaners in boardrooms, invisible to men who think importance comes with a price tag. 3 months later, Maya Rodriguez began her new assignment. Not as an MIT professor or a celebrated whistleblower, but as a night shift janitor at Quantum Dynamics Corporation in Palo Alto. She arrived at 11 p.m. sharp, wearing the same type of uniform she'd worn in Marcus Chen's penthouse. Her cleaning cart contained the usual supplies, plus some very advanced surveillance equipment disguised as ordinary tools. The CEO, David Thornfield, worked late most nights, often leaving classified documents scattered across his desk while he took calls with overseas contacts. He never noticed the cleaning lady who organized his papers with unusual care, photographing each page before returning it to its exact position. Just like Marcus Chen, David Thornfield made the fatal error of assuming invisible meant irrelevant. And just like Marcus Chen, He was about to learn that underestimating Maya Rodriguez was the most expensive mistake a man could make. 6 weeks into her new assignment, Maya had documented enough evidence of technology espionage to bring down not just Thornfield, but an entire network of Silicon Valley executives selling American secrets to the highest bidder. She worked quietly, methodically, invisibly, exactly the way she'd learned was most effective. Because Maya Rodriguez had discovered something more valuable than any government salary or university position, she had found her true calling. Not as a professor teaching students about cryptography, but as a secret guardian protecting her country from those who would sell its future for profit. The most dangerous woman in America looked exactly like what she'd always been, a brilliant mind that powerful men never saw coming until it was far too late to stop her. In the end, Marcus Chen's greatest contribution to national security wasn't the technology he'd tried to steal. It was teaching Maya Rodriguez that sometimes the best way to catch a predator is to let him think he's the hunter. Epilogue. 5 years after Marcus Chen's arrest, Maya Rodriguez had become a legend in intelligence circles. Not because of her public victories, those were documented in newspapers and congressional hearings, but because of the ones that remained classified. The cleaning lady who'd brought down a senator, the janitor who'd prevented a cyber attack, the invisible woman who'd made herself the most feared name in corporate boardrooms across America. She still lived in Brooklyn, still visited her mother every Sunday, still helped Carlos with his advanced physics homework. But now, when CEOs and politicians saw a woman in a maintenance uniform, they wondered, is that just a cleaner? Or is that Maya Rodriguez preparing to destroy my life? The greatest victory of all wasn't justice or revenge, it was fear. The fear that every corrupt executive now carried that the person they dismissed as beneath their notice might be the one person capable of bringing them down. Maya Rodriguez had taught America a lesson it wouldn't soon forget. Never underestimate the quiet ones. They're usually the ones listening most carefully. And in a world built on secrets, the person holding the mop might be the most powerful person in the room.